Welcome to our video lessons on percents. In this lesson we're going to go from percents to fractions, fractions to percents, and then we'll talk about decimals and percents. Before we can talk about how to convert between percents and different types of numbers, we need to first talk about what a percent is. And this definition is really important for your understanding of all the different conversions we're going to do. Percent is a ratio that compares numbers to 100. I underlined the word cent here because cent actually means 100 and per means for each. So if you think about it, percent really means for each 100. So here the symbol for percent is this one right here, and 45% really means 45 out of 100. Cent sounds like cents in the United States and Canada when they talk about money, and that's because it's out of 100. So if you have $4.32, it means 32 out of 100 pennies. So this percent really means out of 100. So if we look at this example of 30%, that means 30 out of 100. The last one, hopefully on your science test, you got 95%, which means that out of 100, you got 95 points. The first example we're going to do here is going from percents to fractions. So our steps are written over here. Make sure you write them down. It'd be a good idea to write your steps in a different color so that you have all your steps in the same color in all of your notes. So use your color to write your steps. Our first step is to write that percent as an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. So 55% really means 55 out of 100. Now we need to simplify it. I know that both 55 and 100 are divisible by 5, so I'm going to divide both the numerator and the denominator by 5. 55 divided by 5 is 11, and 100 divided by 5 is 20. So that means that 55 written as a fraction is 11/20ths. Let's do another example. Here we have 4%. That means 4 out of 100. So 4 out of 100 can be simplified. We can divide both the numerator and the denominator by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 100 divided by 4, in case you can't do it in your head, 4 can't go into 1, but 4 can go into 10. It goes into 10 twice. 2 times 4 is 8. 100 minus 8 is 2. Bring down that 0. 4 goes into 25 times, and 5 times 4 is 20. So that means 100 divided by 4 is 25. So that means 4% written as a fraction is 1/25. The last example I'm going to do with you is 32%. Now that can be written, remember percent means per 100, so I'd write it as 32 out of 100. Now I need to simplify this one. Okay, I think of the numbers that 32 are divisible by, and I know 32 is divisible by 4 again. 32 divided by 4 is 8. I'll do the same thing with my denominator. 100 divided by 4 I just did, and that gives me 25. So that means that 32% written as a fraction is 8/25. Now it's your turn. Give number 4 and 5 a try. If you can't fit them on your guided note, that's no problem. Just work it on the next page in your notebook. Okay, now we're going to talk about going from fractions to percents. On your guided note, I wrote the wrong title down, so cross that out and write fractions to percents at the top. Okay, so we talked about how to go from a percentage to a fraction. We wrote it as a fraction with a denominator of 100. Well, to do the opposite, the steps are actually the opposite. First, we write equivalent fractions with a denominator of 100, and then once we have the denominator of 100, we can write it as a percent because it's out of 100. So let's do a few examples together. Make sure you've written down these steps in a different color. If I have 27 fiftieths, I need to write that as an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. Well, how do I go from 50 to 100? I multiply it by 2. So I'm going to multiply my numerator of 27 times 2. Put that over here. 27 times 2. 7 times 2 is 14, and 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So that would be 54 100ths. Now, to write this as a percent, because I have it out of 100, it makes it really easy for me to do. Percentages are anything out of 100. So 54 out of 100 as a percent would be 54%. And that's my answer for the first one. Okay, the second one. I need to go from 1/20th to something as a fraction with a denominator of 100. How do I go from 20 to 100? Well, I know that 2 times 5 is 10, and we just have an extra 0 here and here. So that means that 20 times 5 will give us 100. So I'm going to multiply my numerator times 5. 1 times 5 is 5, and I have 5 out of 100. So that would be 5%. Okay, last one we're going to do together. We have 7 out of 100. Well, I know I need to get a denominator of 100 for it to be a percent. 10 times what is 100? 10 times 10 is 100. And 7 times 10 would be 70. So 7 out of 10 is really 70 out of 100, so that would be 70%. Okay, give these next two a try on your own. Our next thing we're going to talk about is going from percents to decimals and decimals to percents. Again, I wrote the wrong title on your guided note. I'm really sorry about that. Please cross it out and write the correct title at the top. Our steps. Our first step for writing a percent to a decimal is to write the percent as a fraction with a denominator of 100. Then we write the fraction as a decimal. You're going to see a trick, a pattern, hopefully, as we go through this. I'll make sure you see the pattern by the time we get to the end. So, write the following percentages as decimals. We have 25%, so I'm going to write 25% as 25 out of 100. Then I need to convert this fraction into a decimal, which we've done before. To do that, I divide the numerator by the denominator, so I'd have 25 divided by 100. Well, 100 can't go into 25, so I'm going to add a decimal and a 0. 100 can go into 250. It goes into 250 2 times. And 2 times 100 is 200. 250 minus 200 is 50. Now I add a 0 here and bring it down. How many times can 100 go into 500? It's 5 times. 5 times 100 is 500. And we get a remainder of 0 down here at the bottom. Now I need to make sure I've written a 0 at the top and a decimal here. Okay, so that means that 25% written as a decimal is written as 0 and 25 hundredths. That's interesting. It's interesting because we see we have the same number, so 25% is 25 hundredths. Let's see if it happens again. So I'm going to write 2% as 2 out of 100. And then to convert my fraction to a decimal, I divide my numerator by my denominator. So I take 2 and I divide it by 100. Now 100 can't go into 2, so I add a decimal. And I'll add a decimal to my top right now, my 0. Then I add 1 0. Can 100 go into 20? No. So add another 0. Can 100 go into 200? Yes, it can. It can go in twice. Let me erase this so you don't get confused. 2 times 100 is 200, and 200 minus 200 is 0. So 2% written as a decimal is 0 and 2 hundredths. That's interesting too. Let's see if it works for our last one. 67 100ths would be 67 over 100. Now I need to divide my numerator by my denominator, so I take 67 divided by 100. Well, 100 can't go into 67, so I add my decimal and a 0. Put a decimal on the top, a 0 here. How many times can 100 go into 670? It goes in 6 times, and 6 times 100 is 600. 670 minus 600 is 70. Bring down the 0. How many times can 100 go into 700? 7 times. 7 times 100 is 700. 700 minus 700 is 0. So that means that 67% is written as 0 and 67 hundredths. Maybe you're noticing a pattern here. Hopefully you are, and if you're not, don't worry, we're going to talk about it in class tomorrow, but if you are noticing a pattern, how about you write a little note on the side of what you think the pattern is. Then try the next two on your own. Okay, in this last part we're going to talk about going from decimals to percents. So we need to write the following decimals as percents. The steps, which you're going to write in a different color on your guided note, are over here. We write each decimal as a fraction with a denominator of 100, and then we write the fraction with a denominator of 100 as a percent. Okay, let's start here. I have 0 and 52 hundredths. How would I write that as a decimal? Well, think about the way it sounds. As a fraction. Think about the way it sounds. 0 and 52 hundredths. So that would be 52 out of 100. Well, that's really easy to write as a percent because I already have the denominator of 100. So 52 out of 100 is 52%. Okay, the next one. I have 0 and 5 hundredths. To write that as a fraction, I would write it as 5 hundredths. It's already out of 100, so that makes it really easy. I would have 5%. Okay, this last one here is 5 tenths. So I need to convert it to a denominator of 100. To go from 10 to 100, I'm going to multiply times 10. Well, 5 times 10 is 50. So this would be 50%. Try the next two on your own. The last thing you're going to do are these questions for practice. Please do them in your notebook and show all your work. That's all for now. I'll talk to you later.